Alright folks, as you can see, I'm about to undertake a huge project. I've been needing to do this for some time, and I apologize if there's any background noise. I'm going to work today on this guitar, my only electric guitar right now, and if you heard that, that was thunder. It's no better today to do stuff indoors than when it's thundering outside. My purpose in today is, I've been meaning to do this for a while, and that is Axewrap this guitar. That's one of two things. The other thing is, these pickups have some kind of problem inside. Whenever you tap or turn the volume knob or whatever, there's a lot of static, and sometimes the pickups go in and out, and they don't sound right. So I'm going to go inside there and kind of tweak around, see if there's any soldering needs to be done. And I'm anticipating this project to take a couple hours at least. I'd like to be done as soon as possible. It is 12:15 right now, my time in the morning. in the afternoon, p.m. Got a little stopwatch here with me, and like I said, I'm going to do what's called an Axewrap on this guitar. And basically what that is I'm going to change this guitar's look to a completely new custom look that I've been waiting to do forever. And that is this right here. My logo for Texas Blues Guitar. And I've been studying this and reading on some websites and reading on some instructions and stuff, so hopefully I can get this done. The pickguard itself, it comes with it, so it's actually going to be very nice to do as well. Now, I also have a smartphone handy. If I have to, I'll use reference notes for that. But that is what this guitar is going to look like. It's been a long time coming, long time doing, and we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, I've got all my tools ready. I'm going to need some rubbing alcohol. I need a Phillips head screwdriver for all the different screws around here. And some masking tape to hold the actual Axewrap thing down, the vinyl down on this. A cloth, preferably a lint-free cloth. I don't think this is very much lint-free. It's just a standard Ernie Ball polish cloth that's been well used, well worn, to rub the alcohol. The alcohol is to get all the stickiness and everything so that the vinyl will adhere very cleanly and not having you problems with peeling. I got my WD-40 knockoff stuff for squirting out the electronics in here, because it may be an issue with that just needs to be cleaned. I got the string winder so that I don't have to worry about using a lot of problems winding things. I got an X-Acto knife with a brand new blade. I just put it on today for cutting out the fine detail around the bridge and around the application. Some wire snippers and some needle nose pliers in case I need those. And I have a wrench as well for when I take the volume knobs off and I need to unscrew those. Because all these controls, everything is going to be disassembled except for the actual bridge here. I'm going to go ahead and take off. And also what I'm going to do here is I'm going to kind of time lapse this stuff if I can figure out how to do it. I'm very new to editing with Kdenlive in Linux. And so I'm going to plan on time-lapsing this so that all will be going in fast motion. And I also have some replacement strings, which I've been using that I really love, Jim Dunlop strings. They are electric, nickel-wound light gauge. That's what I use. I use 9s on this guitar. And I also have a trusty bottle of water, which I may have to replace because it is pretty hot. So let's go ahead and start this thing right now. And there is no time to waste. We now have countdownage. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is take off the electric guitar strings. I have Spurzle locking tuners, so this will not be very hard at all. It won't take a lot of time. So I'm just going to take off these strings. Hopefully you can see them here. All I got to do really with Spurzles is just unwind them like maybe one turn. Just unwind them maybe a couple, 2 or 3 turns here. Because Spurzle locking tuners are very, very handy. You don't have to worry much about them. And we won't have to worry about putting the strings on until the end of this, when this is all completed. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and snip the top so it'll be a lot easier to pull out of the strings. To pull out of the holes. So these right here are now a lot easier to get out. And so let's just go ahead and pull those out. Now I can just go ahead and undo the locking mechanisms right here so that I can get the strings out. And usually how I dispose of these is I'll take these and put them in the old container. That way nothing gets, nobody gets stuck on the ends with those. Okay, so we have the strings that are disassembled now. They're all taken care of. And so the next thing to do is probably start going ahead and disassembling the guitar itself. So for that, I'm going to need some screwdrivers, and I'm going to need a Phillips head, probably the biggest one I got. And as far as the parts container, I'm just going to use for the screws, I'm just going to use the bottom of this right here. So let's get started taking all these screws out.
Let's rock and roll slow.
Okay, now the next thing to do is this can be pulled right out, no problem. But we're going to need to, because we're going to be putting a separate wrap on the pickguard, everything within these holes has to be removed so that we can lay this flat on the pickguard. So I'm going to take and just use a regular flat standard size to kind of pull this up on both sides as I need to, and it'll just pop right off. And then from there, I can just set the knobs to one side. And this right here we will remove with a wrench that I've got, and it will lower the pots. Well, the wrench does not appear to be the right size, so that's why we have needle nose pliers. That will take that right out, and this will lower down. And we're going to go ahead and take this off as well. No problem there. This right here has to be loosened. We don't have to really remove it. It will be placed back in very soon, but it will be loosened, and the pickups themselves have to be removed as well. So I'm going to lower those and get those out of the way as well. So let's start on that. Okay, as you can see, it's a huge mess in all of this. What you are going to want to do is, some of these screws do not want to pop out because of those springs there that kind of contain them and hold them. So they'll come right off. So they do need to be contained and kept on the screw so that they're easily found. And they're differentiated from all the other screws as well. So you'll know that these are the ones for the pickups. The pickups had to be disengaged for this to work. And we'll do the pickguard last. We want to really start on the body first. So I'm just going to sit here and screw these on, and then we'll get right on into what is contained inside my guitar here. Okay, as you can tell, it's a very non-cleaned, dirty looking guitar. I have a DiMarzio chopper right here in the neck position, and there was a clap of thunder if you heard it. By the way, this is going to be the most aggravating part, is when you put the pickguard back on and have to screw these little things back in here, try to get them just right. That's a pain in the butt to get the holes exactly lined up, but usually what you have to do then is turn it upside down and kind of manipulate it like this before you set them down in there. But this is just the standard single coil that came with the Stratocaster, and this is a DiMarzio Tone Zone S. One of my favorite, absolute favorite pickup sounds here. And like I said, this is the chopper. Now, one thing I do see right away, this, by the way, is, in case you're just wondering why these might have been different here, they look different. This is a 500K pot, which is what you're going to need if you're going to try to run humbuckers out of a Stratocaster. They come standard with 250K, and you're going to need a 500K if you really want to make this work, to get all the maximum power that you have available. Now, one thing I see right away that doesn't really look that good to me, as far as this thing, why it's got that hissing and crackling sound. Bingo, I just found it. See that? That's going to be need to be resoldered to the bottom of this pot here. And trust me when I say soldering is not for the faint of heart. It's not very fun to do. It's so easy to break off what is soldered in order to get something that's not soldered to work. So I already see what I'm going to have to do, and that is take all this and get that thing soldered on the bottom. And I haven't soldered in ages, but I know what's required here, and that's probably what's causing, because I'm guessing, I know exactly that's what's happened, because what happens is I've stuck this here, and whenever I turn, sometimes it'll ground, and sometimes I have to hit it like this to get the sound to come out. Well, that's because this little part right here, piece, is bouncing up and down against the bottom of that pot, and it needs to be grounded. So once I ground that, that should take care of and eliminate all of the issues that I'm having with that being messing up there. So all I have to do is kind of leave this upside down and just solder that back on there. What I'm going to do is go ahead, before I do anything else, so that I don't forget this, I'm going to go ahead and solder this back on. So I'm going to stop this, come back when I've got my soldering iron hard enough to work with, and then we can continue working on that. And I'm going to stop this while I'm doing everything else in between, so that we can get an accurate reading of how long this is taking to do. Right now it's 15 minutes and 18 seconds. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I've got my soldering gun ready, and like I said, soldering is not for the faint of heart. I had to turn the guitar around so that I could actually see to what I'm doing a lot better. And what I'm going to do is to kind of keep this as clean as possible. I'm going to take and disengage my strap from my DiMarzio strap. They come with these awesome little clip things here that you can just disengage just like that and never have to worry about wrestling with the strap buttons at all. Okay, so soldering, here's the basics of soldering, and if you've never done this, don't do it, okay? Experiment on something else before you try this. You're going to basically, I went to Radio Shack a long time ago when I started in this, bought myself a soldering gun, and they look like this. Typically they have different tips, but this is the one you want, just the sharp tip. You're going to want a sponge that's kind of wetted. I use some of the water from my water bottle here to wet the sponge. And I don't know if you can hear this or not. That's for, you know, cooling down the soldering and kind of getting some of the metal off of that. This kit came with that, with the soldering gun. It came with some soldering wire, which we're going to use. And I'm bad out. I'm going to have to get me some another time. Also, I use a little bulb here if I need to suck up some of the metal, as you saw just then. It comes with this little tool to help you, you know, maneuver the wires and everything. One of the most important thing about soldering, though, not only safety first, but you have to, this came with a little, what's called a heat sink. You're going to clip this to the end of the wire. In this case, the wire, I don't want the heat collecting within the wire itself. It can damage the part that's on the other side. We don't want that. And the other side is kind of loose as well, but it's going. I may just end up soldering that one as well. But you want to clip this to, like, let's say right here, because we want the heat to gather and collect on this and not travel through the wire and burn up any other parts. That's one very important thing about soldering, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you through this and tell you what I'm doing and see what's going on. This is going to be aggravating, I can tell you right now, because of the fact that the pot itself is not going to want to stay put. It's wanting to lean like that. So let me go ahead and put this back down. This also came with a little thing that you can just lay it so it stays off the table. But you want to be careful. You don't want to get it anywhere near the neck and burn the neck at all. So I'm going to kind of let that sit to the edge there a minute and try to keep my eye on it so I don't hit it accidentally. Now, like I said, this is going to require two hands, and one of them has to be used for the soldering. typically the way to start soldering is you're going to want to put the wire down on top of the soldering wire. You're going to put this where you want it to be, okay? And then you're going to put the wire on top of that. And then as you got it connected here, you're going to apply the soldering gun, and it's going to melt it onto whatever you're soldering it to, preferably another piece of metal. But this is going to be hard to do, seeing that I don't have a way to keep this thing steady. So usually what I have to do is put the heat sink where I need it and try to get it to work here. So I'm going to actually go ahead and start. This has plenty of solder on it right now, so I'm going to see if I can do this without having to apply fresh solder at first. I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on the gun. You always want to solder your gun first, okay? So I'm going to lay this on the sponge and then just get a little bit of it. Maybe I can put it right here where you can see it a little better. Lay a little bit on the gun or on the sponge and try to get some of this on the gun itself. And this stuff does not smell very good at all. I mean, it stinks. You can see it smoking. It has a stench to it. You're going to know that you got soldering in the place. We just take this, and there's a little bulb that appears on the end of the metal. You can see it right there. You can kind of roll it around that bulb and get the tip of this thing coated very well, so that whenever you hit or you make contact with another piece of wire, it already has soldering that's already on this. This is called tinning. You're going to tin the metal of the solder, okay? You're going to get it around there really good. Now it's got a little solder on there, so I don't have to worry about the brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stick it and try to stay clear of the other wires. You don't want the other wires touched or affected at all. Now I do not want to hold this heat sink because heat's going to be traveling up this thing, so I'm going to try to figure out a way to do this without having to hold the heat sink. So I'm going to try to solder this thing back down to where it was. And you're just going to kind of brush it on there. And like I said, it has soldering on it, so now I'm kind of collecting the soldering that was already on it and just moving it around, connecting it to that little spot. A little more soldering wire here. Give it a good coating. And it dries, not dries, but it cools quickly, so we want this thing to be on there very good. Just blow it on there real good. And now I can release the heatsink, test it to make sure it's not hot, release it, and it is on there, folks. Now this other end I'm going to go ahead and solder a little bit too because it needs it, and just, you know, not worry too much about the heatsink because there's really nowhere to put it. I'm just going to put a little bit of solder on this. And all this soldering on my guitar I've done myself. I've not ever had anybody else do it for me because I want to make sure that I know, you know, I'll get the experience in doing it, but I also want to be able to make sure that I know what I'm doing and I know what's being done to my guitar, and I can do it the way, you know, and make it as clean as I possibly can. Now, while I got this soldering iron out, I'm going to check some more spots and make sure that nothing else is loose because we don't have to do this more than once. So I'm going to stand here a little bit and check some of these connections out, and if I find any more, I'll solder them. So I'm just going to take my time right now looking through this. Okay, I've done a pretty thorough overlook here of what's going on, and I don't see any other loose connections. Everything looks pretty good. I'm going to give a little bit more of a coating to another place I see real quick. Just kind of touch that up just as quick as that. I mean, once you get used to this, you know what you're doing. Now you can tell a difference here. I don't know if you can see this very well or not, but right here, the soldering is a lot more clean, like much cleaner than what my job is. My job doesn't look very clean at all. If you look at all the stuff that I had to do to this right here, it's all messy and everything. But the job is done. It's on there. So I'm going to hope that that right there does not come loose again. I've got it pretty good and secured. And so for now, I'm going to gently turn this stuff back over and try to get it to sit back in there. There we go, just like so. Okay, so this is taken care of now. Hopefully no more issues with that. Oh, and by the way, just to let you know, when I started soldering this and looked at the directions on when I installed these pickups, I accidentally, without knowing this, installed the 5-way switch. The very bottom is supposed to be just the bridge only, the 5th position. But somehow, when I got to looking at it, I installed it to turn on both the bridge and the neck. And I really like it like that because there's more power. You're getting dual power here, and you're both, the full register of what the guitar can do. Plus, it is a different sound than just the bass alone, so it's good and high enough. So I don't want to go back and switch that because I'm afraid that I will not have as good a sound with out of the tone zone like that. So I recommend that. I mean, it's good for experimenting on maybe a cheap guitar or something. So I'm gonna go ahead and disconnect this soldering iron, let it cool down, and we'll get right on into some more of what we're doing here. Okay, so let's get all this out of the way and get back to disassembling the guitar itself. And I probably should have done this earlier. Hindsight's 20/20, folks. I should have done this earlier, which is turn the guitar upside down like I needed to, because I kind of need to disassemble this neck here. So let's just hope it don't fall out. Now, I've never done this with this guitar. I've never disassembled the neck of this guitar. I don't know what it's going to be like. I've never taken this neck off, so hopefully it'll be all right, Now, if I don't mention it later, I'm going to mention it now. One of the most important things to do before you put everything back together and put the pickguard on is plug the thing up and make sure what you just did works, okay? You don't want to put the strings on, the pickguard on, and all this other stuff without checking to make sure that everything still works okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your little screwdriver or metal piece, and when you plug this in, you're going to take and tap on every pickup when you switch the 5-way switch to make sure the pickups are functioning correctly. You should get sound out of your amp that way. And hopefully I'll do this later, and you'll turn up the knobs and turn them down and everything and make sure there's no hissing or cracking or anything like that, okay? Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and take this neck off. I can already see I'm going to need a bigger screwdriver, so I'm going to go grab one of those real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this and put it back on when we get back. Okay, we're back. I've located my Phillips screwdriver, and we are so far about 29 minutes into this thing, okay? So it's 12:56, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of hope this doesn't fall out while I try to disassemble this neck here. Alright, so here we go. This is the first time I have ever done this, people. This is kind of scary. I'm in it for the long run now. That's very weird, just to let you know. By the way, the mass of the headstock is pretty huge. This is called a fat finger. It's supposed to increase the mass of the headstock. And I've always wanted to know if this thing works or not. So let's just see how much this weighs. I feel that it does increase it quite a bit. I don't know exactly how much it weighs, but it does increase it quite a bit, which is supposed to help increase the sustain of the string. So I know at least it makes it heavier, because this thing is actually pretty heavy. Now let's turn this baby back around and get started on, actually, you know what, I'm going to take a minute here and check out something on this video to see if they took all the guts out of this guitar when they did this. Okay, I've checked the video, and they did leave everything in here, although it looked a lot cleaner than mine. So now we're going to get into the actual, we're going to have to actually remove my other decal. Now, I hate to remove this thing because of the fact that I've had this on here for years, and it's been a great decal, great witness for me. But the thing about this is, well, for one thing, it's made for cars. But I really like the application here. And I was thinking about actually putting the Axewrap over that and kind of, meshing this down really good so that it maybe comes through, but that might affect the actual, measurements. Plus, this thing right here, I mean, I've had it, but these little bitty fringes and things, they get caught, they come up, they pull up a lot, so that's pretty aggravating. I've had to go back many times with my pick and just cut off sections of this thing where they lift up. So it is about time to get to remove this decal, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, there you have it, and isn't it pretty neat that the decal, the stickiness of the decal still remains? I think that's pretty interesting. Take a look at that for myself here. It's pretty wild. I was using the soldering tool that came with my soldering iron, and it has sort of a Phillips head edge to it. I mean, not a Phillips head, but a straight edge, like a screwdriver. And it wasn't scratching anything. I wasn't worried about that at all. It's a very nice finish that I've had, you know, since I've had this guitar back in 2001. And at this point, I'm going to put something over it, so I'm really not worrying about it scraping over or anything. And as you can see, this thing took a while to take off because it was so adhered to this thing. It's been on here for years, so it had time to stick. But the Axewraps are supposed to be a lot easier to get off. So what I'm going to do, this is what the rubbing alcohol is for, so it can take all that stickiness off there. So I'm just going to rub the entire thing down very thoroughly, just the top of it. Because it's just only going on the top, so I'm just going to rub this thing down, get all the stickiness off of it, and we'll come back to after that. Okay, so now we have a very clean, stripped down version of my guitar. So I think the very next thing to do would be go ahead and get on into getting the Axewrap cut out. And for that, I'm going to need to go get some scissors. I thought I had everything I needed, but I didn't. So you're going to need, if you're going to take your guitar neck off, you're going to need a thicker Phillips head screwdriver, and you also need a pair of scissors to cut the Axewrap out. So I'm going to go ahead and go get some of those, and go ahead and stop this video and then piece it together later on. So far we are 47 minutes into the process of this. It is 1:15 and we're just getting started, in my opinion. So this is a while to take, so let's see what happens. Okay, I have removed the guitar from the table here, and what we're going to do is go ahead and start working on cutting out the actual Axewrap image here. And this is where the instructions are going to come in handy. Okay, they send you a pack of instructions whenever you do this. Oh, by the way, Axewraps.com is where you're going to find these at. They are about $35, $40 last time I bought this one, and it was a few months ago. But they're totally worth it without you having to go strip down your guitar, create a totally new paint job, send it overseas, or send it wherever you're going to do to get it a brand new paint job. This right here is the way to go. From everybody I have seen online, they're really happy with them, and it's a great way to customize your guitar. Axewraps.com, check it out. Really good stuff. So, the first thing the instructions say to do is, after you've cleaned the pickguard, the body, removed all the screws, removed the pickguard and all this stuff, then what you do is, now they left the neck on, but it's just going to be easier. The video I saw said to take it off, so it's just going to be easier to take off. So what they say to do now is step number 7, cut the excess backer from the graphics. With a pair of scissors, cut around the perimeter of both the pickguard and the graphic and the guitar body graphic. Cut as close as possible to the guitar graphic within the designated cut channel. So we're going to basically cut around the perimeter here, trying to stay as close as possible. So let's go ahead and get that going. Okay, so you have a rough guideline now of how to place this on your guitar, and you're not going to worry too much about this, where the neck meets and where the this right here, that's where the X-Acto knife is going to come in handy. The cool thing about this is they actually included a backer, a little cardboard backer for you to use for the X-Acto knife, so that you don't have to worry about cutting on your table or anything. This is actually an art table or a craft table, so we don't have to worry about that too much. So let's go into what the next one says. And by the way, take your time, because I almost made a big booby right here. It almost got all the way into the actual lining there, but it didn't. So take your time when you're doing this. You don't want to have any mess ups on this, okay? So the next thing it says to do is cut the excess interior portion of the body graphic. Okay, that is this little section right in here. Okay, cut as closely as possible to the guitar graphic within the designated cut channel. That's the wide area. Cut as closely as possible as you can. However, the areas that outline the bridge and the guitar neck will need to be cut as close to the graphic as possible. So that means they will need to be cut as close to the actual graphic right here. You want to use an X-Acto knife for that. So this part that's going to cut out the channel, you're going to use an X-Acto knife for that, because it's going to fit right against the neck and right against the bridge. So you don't want this white showing. You want the actual graphic going to be placed against that and the neck. Then it says cut an X into the area for the oval shaped output jack to pass through when applying the graphic. You cut an X right here and right here. And that way, when you put the graphic on the body, you don't have to worry about that little oval output jack having to disconnect that. You just raise it up through that little X area, and it sits right on top of that, okay? So let's get on into that, and I will go ahead and speed that up or come back when I'm done with that, depending on what I'm able to do. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take out our X-Acto knife and use it to cut as close to the graphic as possible on the bridge and on the on the neck here. So in other words, I'm going to take and cut right in here, right up against the graphic. We want that graphic to be right against that area. So we're just going to take our time and cut right against that graphic. Just like that, alright? And there's a little bit of excess, but I don't want to risk messing that up. So we're going to do it on that side, and we're going to do it on this side as well. Okay, and there's a little bit of white there, so let's see if I can get the scissors to kind of take care of that for me. Very, very carefully. You also want to use very sharp scissors. I hardly ever use these scissors, so I know they're very sharp. I don't have to worry about that. Let's try this other side. There's a little bit of white spot there. I'm going to try to get off. That'll be good enough. Okay, now let's do the bridge. Work on that. And we're going to also take on, according to the picture I'm seeing, from right here. Okay, once again I've got some white area that I need to trim off just a little bit. Don't want that on there. Be careful if you're doing this. You don't want to accidentally do that. Okay, so it might be better to do this. Okay, so maybe I can trim this excess off a little bit with X-Acto. Too much white there for my taste. Okay, since this is going to be basically underneath the bridge is probably going to be hanging this over quite a bit. I'm not going to worry too much about that white. But we do have what we need now as far as the body. So now we got to make that X right here. Okay, so you're going to cut that from the actual graphic to the graphic, past the white. You're not going to cut on the white borders. It goes all the way to the graphic. And then now your little input jack can rest right there. Okay. This is looking pretty good so far. Now it's time to get the guitar up here, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, and we've got to actually tape it to the body of the guitar. Okay, so we're going to take and get some masking tape up here. Now this is cool because now we get to see what it's going to look like on the guitar itself. And this right here is the reason why you wanted to cut that as close as possible to the edge of that graphic, so that could sit on there. Okay. Now I can tell you right now, this doesn't fit exactly like I'd like it to. But what we're going to do is we're going to take and align the guitar, the body graphic, in place with the area of the backer cut out as closely as possible, outlining the bridge. It will fit snugly into place and align into position. Make sure the graphic is evenly spaced around the perimeter of the guitar body. So we got to evenly space it around the perimeter here, which is basically what I've done. It feels like it's sticking over the edge. I'm hoping this is not going to be a problem. Hopefully when it lays down, this white here will kind of blend into the body, while the remainder, because it's actually clear. It's not white here. It's actually clear when you pull the vinyl off and everything. So hopefully that'll work. B says, secure the position of the graphic by taping the graphic to the side of the guitar with masking tape. Tape at the outermost point of the top left horn and at a point even with the top of the bridge. In other words, we're going to take the masking tape, and as soon as we got it lined up, we're going to take and tape our masking tape with the top horn, and I'm going to put 2 strips of tape on this just in case. And then it says with the you're going to tape it with the outermost point of the top left horn and the point even with the top of the bridge. So this is the top of the bridge. Okay, so it's going to be right in the middle of the bridge here. Okay, so we now have ourselves a nice little template to start with. And I'm going to have to scoot this way out because I have to flip this over and start the application process. And what it says to do is pull the graphic away from the guitar, laying it on its face like this, and it should be lined up so it's taped where it needs to be. The tape is acting as the hinge points. With the graphic face down, peel the backer evenly back about 2 to 3 inches and fold it against itself, creating a straight and tight crease. Notice the masking tape is still attached to both the graphic and the guitar. So now we fold this back. Hold on just a second. I'm going to check something here. Okay. I'm actually going to have to go around and cut off the excess points here. I'll do that right now. You see, when you're cutting this, make sure to do this this way first. And that is, you got to leave the white. Don't leave any of that excess on there. So I got to go back around and cut some of this off. Okay, now that we're back, we're going to go ahead and try this again. We're going to pull this back and notice that it's taped to the body. We're going to try not to touch the vinyl because we don't want any of our finger oils or anything like that getting on there. So it says pull this back about 2/3, 2 or 3 inches and fold it against itself, creating a straight and tight crease. Masking tape is still attached to the body and the graphic and the guitar. Now it says to, at the points directly above the masking tape, hinge points, hold the graphic with moderate tension while lowering the graphic onto the face of the guitar. With your hand, press the graphic into place where the backer has been removed, which is right in here. At this point, do not apply the lower right portion of the guitar graphic where the guitar body is contoured, which is right here. Don't apply it here. If you're doing a Stratocaster, this is contoured. So don't apply it to that just yet. A scrap piece of backer can be used to prevent the corner from sticking. Okay, so I can use another piece of plastic to prevent that corner from sticking. So when we're coming up, we're going to add a little bit of tension, tug it a little bit, and bring it over, and begin to apply that backer on there. Okay, or not backer, but apply the graphic itself on there. You want to push out as you're applying this as well. Okay, now from here it says to apply the rest of the graphic to the actual guitar. Step number 12. Lift the graphic and peel back the remainder of the backer, which is the backer you just pulled back. Holding the graphic up from the face of the guitar, begin firmly applying the graphic with your hand in an even motion, working the vinyl around the bridge. When the graphic has been worked into the jack plate, which by the way, I still have to unscrew the jack plate so that I can maneuver it. So we'll just unscrew that real quick. And like I said, you don't want to have to fool with having to uninstall or you know, disconnect all the soldering connections and everything from the output jack. You don't have to fool with that. So the best thing to do is just, and you'll see how this works when I lift this up. So we're going to go around here and kind of lift it up, and it comes right out. So you're going to maneuver this through that X you made earlier. Okay, so we're going to work around this, and hopefully this will turn out all right. So it said I don't know where the contour comes in. Okay, so this says after you've worked in the output jack input jack. It says when the graphic has been worked to the jack plate, insert the plate narrow side first. That's this narrow side here, the little end. Insert it into there through that X opening and continue to lay the graphic in place, continuing along the perimeter of the guitar. Finally, lift and apply the bottom right corner of the graphic to the body contour. So that comes last. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this going. Okay, here's the situation. As you can see, this is sticking out on this edge, and it's not completely all the way to this edge. So somewhere along the way, this should have been a little further back, which is okay. I don't think it's going to be much of an issue, hopefully. I can tell where this is not completely laying over this side like it's supposed to be, whereas this one is. I can definitely tell a difference there. I'm hoping when I put the pickguard on that there's not going to be a huge gap here between this graphic and the pickguard graphic. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. So I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but we'll just hope for the best and see what happens. It might be actually better if I try to bring this in just a hair to line up with that. Okay, so the camera battery died on me for just a minute, but I'll tell you what happened real quick. I did go back and reapply this little section here so that it would line up better. It is now right on the flush end of it. Didn't really cause any problems, and I pulled this up to about right here and kind of pulled back just a little bit so this wouldn't be sticking out so much. So hopefully the graphic will look a lot better. Right now we've been into about an hour and a half into this, which isn't too bad. You'll definitely want to block out about 2 hours of time at least if you're going to do this. So the next thing it says to do after you've applied the contour and all this stuff is to pull off the transfer tape. Remove the transfer tape, inspect the graphics. That's step 13. We're right here. We're almost done. From the corner of the guitar, a corner of the guitar, separate the clear transfer tape from the graphics. That's this clear area here. While holding the guitar in place firmly with one hand, remove the transfer tape by pulling it up and away from the guitar with firm and even pressure. Inspect the graphics. If there are any air bubbles, press on them firmly with your thumb. If there are any small wrinkles, in most instances they can be rubbed out with your thumbnail by pressing at the base of the wrinkle and running your thumbnail through the length of the wrinkle. Then after this, we'll start the pickguard application. So I'm going to start removing the clear transfer tape here from the graphic itself. Okay, look how shiny this is. Doesn't it look awesome? The only thing I don't like is the fact that it's not perfect. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Check this out. We have some wrinklage over here, okay? And I'm going to try to smooth that out, but it's probably not going to happen very well. Well, actually, it's doing pretty good. Not too bad, actually. This is a little bit tough to try to get the thing lined up exactly the way you need to. Especially under the jack here. You got to maneuver that in there well. The reason, I mean, it's sitting over there just a little bit on this side here like it was. There's also some here right at the horn. So if I did that one, maybe I could smooth this one out pretty good. I hope so. This doesn't look like it wants to be as smooth. We don't want to damage the plate. Cool thing is, you know, it's not going to really be that bad of a big deal. All in all, I'm pretty pleased with this. I mean, this is a very high grade professional job here by these people at Axewrap. Please check them out at axewraps.com. You can actually log on for a tutorial. It says here at axewraps.com/instructions. I actually found one on YouTube, and it was with a Stratocaster application. So it's application to a Stratocaster. The other thing I see that's kind of going to be difficult, well, when you line your pickguard up, it's not going to be as difficult because the holes are going to line up. But this application does kind of cover these holes up a little bit. But once you lay this down, you can kind of find out where to drill anyway. So that's going to be all right. Okay, so now this is done. And when I play this, hopefully there's not going to be any issues of this aggravating my arm or anything like that. So once again, this thing is not exactly lined up like it's supposed to be here. So do be careful and take your time when you're doing this. I did try to do the best job that I could. I'm still very pleased with the look of it and the feel of it. But we're going to go ahead and get on into the application of the pickguard. Okay, so I'm going to X-Acto knife this out like I did the other one. Let's see. First of all, once again, I'm going to cut off this excess that the white is showing up there. It needs to be gone. So let's go ahead and get, I think, on the pickguard, you know, I just realized something. This clear transfer tape is going to be removed. So it's not going to matter if you have that little excess there. And I'm not exactly sure how far to cut on the graph. This is like a, once again, transfer tape that is going to be separating from the graphic. So right here, you're just going to try to cut. You don't have to cut against the graphic, I'm pretty sure. Maybe so. I'm not, wow, this is not really clear on this. This says on step 7, with a pair of scissors, cut around the perimeter of both the pickguard graphic and the guitar body. Cut as closely as possible to the guitar graphic within the designated cut channel. So cut the excess part of the body graphic. It just says cut excess part as closely as possible to the guitar graphic. It doesn't say to do that with the pickguard. So I'm just going to make sure to cut where the perimeter is and not cut as close to the graphic as possible. I'm not going to worry about that on both sides here. Now this says step 14, start pickguard graphic application. With the face of the pickguard graphic on a flat surface, peel the white backer off the top of the graphic, cut far enough to expose the top 3 screw holes. And first of all, once again, I'm going to clean this pickguard because it does have some residue built up in that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so now, and I do recommend you go ahead and clean off your pickguard before you do this, because you want it to stick as well as possible. So we're going to do what it said and peel off the upper 3 screw holes, 1, 2, 3. And don't worry about getting the screw holes aligned, because once you apply it to here, you're going to then flip it over and then cut out the pickups and, you know, punch in where the screw holes are so you know where exactly to start drilling or to screw your pick holes back in. Okay, so let's go ahead and peel that off here. Okay, so it says here, after you've done this, to hover the graphic in position. In other words, kind of hover it over the pickguard like this, aligning all three holes, these three screw holes, as well as the perimeter of the graphic. Press into place, remove the remaining backer, and finish application. So I'm just going to hover this and try to align the holes as well as get it aligned, the little, the actual graphic part aligned on the pickguard correctly. Okay, we're going to redo that because I don't think this is going to completely fit this pickguard the right way. I think there's going to be some white outline around it, which may not look as good as I'd hoped, but we'll see. We're going to try to align these exactly by the holes, so at least it will fit completely the right way around. Okay, I've lined this up as best as I could. I'm disappointed that there is that white trim around the edge here. That's pretty disappointing. It's not exact to the pickguard itself. It's going to actually look like an application like that. I don't really like that. Okay, well, anyway, now it says after you've done this to remove the backer, which I just did, from one corner of the pickguard, separate the clear transfer from the tape and completely remove. Okay, so now we're removing the transfer tape. And that stuff is pretty sticky. But anyway, you can see there is a white trim around here and where there's not up here. So it's not completely cut specifically to the Stratocaster's pickguard dimensions, which is very disappointing because it's going to look funny on the guitar, but it's still going to look pretty good. This is going to be covered up, this excess white here is going to be covered up by the tone knob, so I'm not worried about that. Now it says to place it on a cutting board, which is they've supplied upside down, and this is a whole lot easier to apply, by the way, than the graphic for the body was. Do make sure that you get the bubble holes, the air bubbles out as much as you can. There are some here that I can see, but they'll be fine. Place the pickguard and use the X-Acto knife to cut out the vinyl that is covering the pickup holes by using the edge of the holes as a guide. Be careful not to cut into your pickguard itself. Then you poke out all the screw holes for the pickups with the tip of a knife, and might as well just poke out the ones for assembling that as well. So let's go ahead and X-Acto this. I'll time lapse this or whatever, and we'll see what we can come up with here. Okay, there you have it. You don't have to poke out the holes for the perimeter because the holes are already there. You just have to poke out the holes for the pick guards here, the picks. So I just took and just basically did a poke and twist there. So now it says after this, the fun part, reassemble the guitar. Pickups and controls should be in the same position as they were when you initially removed the pickguard. Secure all knobs and pickups to the pickguard. Pay special attention to any springs that may have been included. Secure the pickguard and output jack plate to the guitar body with the respective screws. Enjoy your great looking new guitar. Please check out Axewraps.com periodically to see our new Axewraps designs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this, and then I'll put the strings on, and then we can see and make sure if everything is going to sound correctly. But number one, like I told you, we want to hook this thing up and see if it's going to sound correct. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, we have juice now. Now the thing to do is to make sure, using magnetics, everything's going to sound good. Okay, so I've got this on the middle position. Let's go all the way to the top 5-way and make sure that our pickup here is working. Good, these other two are dead. This one is working. Now should be just the middle and the top here. Nothing there. The middle should be just the middle. That's working. Now we have the back two. And the back. Now this is where you're going to see where I actually wired these together to the back side, which was an accident, but I really like the tone I get from it. See that? Some people do that, and I thought, why change it? I mean, it's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. However, what was broke was this little pot. It's having all kinds of problems with this thing because the bottom there was desoldered, and I just soldered that earlier. And so we're not going to try to get shocked here or anything. Pot still works. Let's go ahead and go to the middle here. Okay, so everything seems in working order. Now let's put it all back together again. Once again, once you get everything on here, you're going to want to make sure that everything works. So let's try this little tap test again. Okay, one thing I did fail to do is I forgot to put any WD-40 in the pots, which is fine. They should be well lubricated anyway. They should be fine. So, I mean, there's no problems or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing this and finish this up. Finish doing the application of the screws and all the toe knobs and everything. Okay, so there seems to be a problem here. It's not fitting flush against the back of the pick guard for some reason. I don't know what it is. Something here is not working right. Because it's jutting out of the end here and the screw holes are not whatsoever lining up. So now I've got to figure out probably the way the pots are turned or something else. So I've got to figure that out. I'm going to go ahead and shut the camera off and let it charge. And when I figure this out, I'll put it back together again and we'll splice it all together. Okay, I'm back. Finally managed to work everything into place. And it took an extra probably, I don't know, 30-40 minutes to do that. I'm at nearly 3 hours now doing this. Once again, if you don't have to do all this soldering and all this other stuff, it's not going to take you that long. Maybe 2 hours at the most. Even for a first timer, this wouldn't have taken me more than 2 hours if I hadn't had to do all that other stuff. But anyway, all that's left now is to assemble the neck and to put the strings on. So we'll go ahead and assemble the neck, and instead of me shooting all the string footage after I've assembled the neck, I'm going to go ahead and probably cut this thing off. So let's go ahead and put the neck on. Everything does work. Oh, and by the way, I did go in and spray with WD-40 the electronics and everything, and they work just fine. So everything is now set. It did run all over the place a little bit, so I had to kind of wipe it down. Hopefully it won't hurt the vinyl finish or anything like that. So let's go ahead and put this neck back on. Okay, so that leaves the strap and the strings, and I'm going to go ahead and put the strap on the way that I have it. When you put your neck back on, be sure, like you probably saw me do, and in case I have to cut this out, be sure to screw this on evenly all the way around. So screw a little here, screw a little here, screw a little here, screw a little here, until they're all completely flush. You don't want to have anything go wrong. Always make sure to evenly do that. Now I see there's a little bit of a piece of this backing coming down here of the pattern, which is fine. Doesn't really bother me that much because I'm not going to be seeing that side. I just don't want it to start peeling. That's the concern I have. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and string this baby back up with my Dunlop strings. Should be done with all the screwdrivers and everything now. I can put them back up. So now let's go ahead, string this puppy up, and after that, let's go over to my studio area and see what this baby sounds like and looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and see you when I get there. Well, obviously, as you can tell, it works. The guitar is perfectly set up. I've just got to work on the pickup height, and that's all it's left to do. The strings, as you can tell, were out of tune because they're brand new. They obviously have a little time and stretching to do. Appreciate you sticking with me through this video. I hope it's not been too boring. Hope it's been educational, and I hope you've learned something. Please do check out Axewraps.com. They supplied this awesome product. I had to buy it, of course, but maybe we can get some kind of endorsement going. It'd be nice. I'm really pleased with this. It's not as bad as what I thought around the pickguard area. I don't mind the white trim. It doesn't, bother me too much. I did lose a couple of screws in the process, though, so make sure you take good inventory of your screws. Keep them separate so that you don't accidentally use one screw somewhere else where it wasn't supposed to be. Everything seems to be working just fine. There's no problems at all. Pickups are soldered correctly. There's no mess ups on there. The only other thing I will say is that right now it's about 5 minutes after 4. I started, I think, at 1:15. I think that's what I said at the beginning of the video. So about 3 hours and 45 minutes, I think, to do the whole thing. Which would take you, like I said, much less if you don't have to worry about doing all the soldering extras and things like that. Probably go for at least, if you're going to plan on doing this, probably plan on spending at least 2 hours, and just as a good buffer, 2.5 hours on something like this. But it's totally worth it. It's done. I only have to do this one time, thank goodness. It's done. I'm very pleased with it, and yeah, it's very awesome. So thank you so much for watching. Once again, check out Axewraps.com for some more cool custom designs that you can make on your own. And please do check out www.secretsoftexasbluesguitar.com to check out what this logo and this decal is all about. Okay? Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And if you're watching by newsletter, thank you for subscribing to that, which you can also check out at www.secretsoftexasbluesguitar.com/newsletter. So check those out, and I would play something at the end here, but obviously I'm out of tune. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Check out Axewraps.com, and I'll be seeing you sometime down the road. Thanks so much.